Hello, good morning, everyone. It's October 1st, 2020. Welcome to Mornings with the Managers, and I hope you had a good past 2 weeks. And I appreciate, as always, that you spent some time with me, and I'll try to be responsive to your questions that you have submitted already, but also give you an overview about our city and what we have done in the past 2 weeks. Let's start with what happened just yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, the City Council was part of a study session, and we discussed in great length the topic of commercial cannabis operations in the city of Monterey. As you know, the city of Monterey currently does not operate or has given out a license to operate a commercial cannabis retail operation. That is something that the city council and the city residents jointly need to decide if they want to go forward with that. And yesterday was the chance for the council to learn about all the topics that are important to discuss prior to licensing cannabis retail operations in the city of Monterey. Councilmember Hafer brought this topic forward probably something like 6, 7 weeks ago at a meeting when he asked his council colleagues to put it on the agenda and to discuss it. And since then, our city staff has been getting smart on that topic. And as I just indicated to you, we do not have currently any commercial retail operations in the city of Monterey with respect to selling cannabis. And so we also, with that, do not really have an expertise yet in this topic as your staff. And so we started working, analyzing, assessing, learning best practices about 6, 7 weeks ago. And that's a process that is going on, of course. And our other routine work, our other project work, of course, continues as well. And so yesterday was a time where we briefed the council about what we know so far about cannabis. And it had several important elements that I'd like to share with you. Number one is we asked the council, what do you want to accomplish? What are the objectives for our community? And at the core of that is the question, do you like to allow just medicinal marijuana sales, or do you also like to allow recreational cannabis sales? The other question also that goes hand in hand with that is, do you like to maximize the revenues coming from that operations? And colloquially, people understand that there is extra taxation that has to be approved by you, the voters, but you can tax cannabis sales differently than sales in other outlets. So in addition to these normal sales tax that you would get from every retail outlet, including cannabis, you can ask the voters to impose another 5 or 6% of cannabis tax on commercial retail establishments. And so we asked the council, what do you want to do? Do you like to maximize your tax revenues with that? And we also asked them, what is more important for you? Economic diversity? Do you want to create many more jobs? With that, of course, the question underlying is, how many dispensaries do you think we should have in the city of Monterey? And last but not least, we also asked them with respect to quality of life issues and public safety by saying, be conscientious of that when you make decisions. You need to consider also the question of public safety and quality of life. And with that, it's very simply stated that way. Where do you want to put dispensaries? And if you put a dispensary on one of our streets, just be aware that there might be already a number of folks that basically might say, hey, not there, why don't you put it there? And so, because with that topic, always a lot of questions arise. And so we started briefing the council with those 4 questions, saying, keep all this in mind. And here's what we can tell you. And so we provided a brief legal overview over cannabis. And as you know, Prop 64 was approved in 2016 by the voters, and it allowed the sales for recreational marijuana for adults. So Prop 64 made it legal in the state of California to operate commercial cannabis operations. On the flip side, though, federal law still treats cannabis as a Schedule 1 drug in the same category as heroin or meth or crack or any other of those cocaine drugs. And so with that comes very special business practices that cannabis operators have to adhere to. And it's a cash business because federal banking laws would not allow them to work with the banking system because the federal law still prohibits cannabis. So we provided that overview, and we also briefed them that there are attempts or legislation in front of the Congress of the United States to bridge that difference and to come up with legislation that also gives some more leverage with respect and how to operate. But right now, cannabis businesses are a cash business. And with that came, of course, then a few statements from our chief of police, Chief Ober. He himself has worked in that arena for 15, 18 months or so in the city of San Jose. And he has some very unique law enforcement experience with, I believe, 20 or so dispensaries in San Jose. He gave a brief overview over his assessment, and then we moved on to the finance part and talked about the revenues. And there are maybe 2 or 3 takeaways that I'd like to share with you. Number one takeaway is, in order to get the additional revenues that are really making then the difference. The sales tax is nice, but it does not really fill the revenue pots, so to speak. Extra taxation will make the difference. We will need to have a voter-approved cannabis tax. And the next opportunity to put this in front of you, the voters, will be in 2 years. It has to be at a general election. So if we proceed and if the council wants to do that, November 2022, you, the voters, have to decide. And then January 2023 will be the first time that we are actually be able collecting cannabis taxes. The other takeaway is that the question, of course, was asked by council: how much money can we actually make? How high can the revenues be? And we kind of dodged that question yesterday as your staff, because frankly, we don't know. We can make up a number anywhere between $400,000 to $2,000,000 to $2 million. The challenge, though, is we need a little bit more time to do a better analysis. The dispensaries in Seaside, as well as the commercial cannabis operations in Delray Oaks, they bring in around $400,000 per commercial entity. So if you look at Seaside, we shared the number there. Seaside has about $1.1 million in revenues coming from 3 dispensaries. You can maybe say it's $400,000 per dispensary on the peninsula. Flip side is, though, that the pie is what the pie is. So the demand on the peninsula is what the demand is. So maybe the pie remains the same, but the slices of the pie will be smaller. We don't know that yet. We have to analyze that. And of course, another very important aspect in all of that is, if we place the dispensary somewhere in Monterey strategically, we also might have a lot of tourists going to the dispensaries while they are in Monterey. They visit Cannery Row, they would visit the aquarium, and potentially they might want to stop also at a dispensary. So giving a revenue estimate was not a straightforward thing we could do honestly in 6 to 8 weeks and stand in front of council and with that create some facts, and with that also um, uh, provide a benchline or a baseline. I'm sorry, a baseline. Uh, we will keep on working that to provide those revenue estimates. But what is also very important to understand is when we talk about taxation and revenues, that the more the local and state agencies are taxing cannabis, the more, of course, the illicit market still remains sustained. The illicit market is still huge. I would say over 80% of recreational marijuana is still being produced for the illicit market. And with that, taxation issues, of course, also comes concerns that you really do not get rid of the illicit market. So the revenue question is a fair question, but it's not that easy to answer. And then, of course, the a large portion of the conversation we had with the council and the information was coming from community development, and we discussed areas such as, where do you want to put dispensaries? Do you want to put them in our commercial districts? Do you want to put them on Lighthouse, on Cannery Row, on Alvarado Street, or North Fremont? These are our main business areas. What The council, of course, didn't make any decisions, and we didn't discuss in detail, but we just uh, drafted the outline of future discussions. So, if the city decides to select 3 dispensaries for the city of Monterey, where would you put them? Do you want them on Lighthouse, or do you want them on Cannery Row? Do you want them on Alvarado Street? Do you prefer a side street in Old Town? Do you want it at all in Old Town? Do you want it on North Fremont? Where in North Fremont? So those questions all have to be figured out. So that was one of the elements that we briefed them on. We also briefed them on that you can foreseeably maybe have manufacturing businesses out at Ryan Ranch. Ryan Ranch is zoned appropriately, and if you want to allow also manufacturing businesses, there's an opportunity out at Ryan Ranch. We also spoke about the way of how we are getting responsible operators into the city of Monterey. Requests for proposals. There are different ways of how to structure requests for proposals. A very painful way and very litigious way, also in a way, is to create a merit-based award system. So you basically have people apply, and then you start scoring them, and you try to figure out what is the best for the community for us. Of course, there's always an element of subjectivity in it, and that is prone for others who are not being selected to uh, go and question the process and use legal means to get the point across. And let me assure you that cannabis operations is big money, and you have huge investors in the background, many times with the right backing up or backup through large scale law firms who do nothing else than trying to also get the point across through legal means. So, a merit based RFP process has its challenges. You can also do a first come, first serve process. Now, we learned also through our research that this has its own challenges. How do you know what is first come, first serve? Do you track it by the hundreds of a second when you have email submittals and you open the email box at a certain time and allow them people to submit their RFPs? So that we talked about that and informed the council about those challenges as well. And another element of the community development director's Kim Cole presentation was also about, do you want to allow temporary cannabis events? And we've heard from the fairgrounds a few times in the past years where they want to hold cannabis themed events on the fairgrounds where people can congregate and they can enjoy various cannabis products offered by many vendors. So, do you want temporary cannabis events? The fairgrounds director shared with the council yesterday that that is an additional revenue source that could generate revenues in a short amount of time. And as she stated, they were not really that insignificant as revenues. So we asked council also, what do you think about temporary events? And then we opened up the phone lines at the end of that, and we asked the public for input, and we received 10 to 12 calls, and a lot of the callers were making very interesting points. It is always very interesting for staff to listen and learn from those study sessions, because there are aspects being brought forward that we just overlooked, didn't think of, or that were not a topic in our research, but they may be a topic for the city of Monterey. So we very much appreciate what we heard yesterday. And there were a couple of folks that were saying basically medicinal or normal retail operations. That was one of the questions we asked, and they said, "Well, just do retail operations. Medicinal has special requests, and they are part then of recreational marijuana sales." So I think yesterday the council learned that aspect as well, and it was more stronger emphasized by the callers than we as staff had realized that. So that was one of the aspects that was very interesting. Council asked us also in response to the briefing that the police chief was giving, well, we hear you, chief, but tell us what's going on in Seaside, what's going on in Delray Oaks, potentially in Marina, and give us some statistics. Has crime really changed? Do you see more DUI arrests, etc., etc.? And again, that's a very fair assessment from the city council to ask those questions, and so we have to come back and explain that a little bit more. So cannabis will be part of our future work program. It is a huge program. It will consume quite some resources, because one of the inputs we received yesterday as well was from one of the attorneys representing one of those future retail operations. And he said, you got to do it right. And he appreciates very much the structured approach that we are laying out as staff. You don't want to come and do something radically fast and then not have everyone on board and understanding the consequences. So our next step will be the following. We earlier this year, we talked about a lab that was going to test marijuana, and they asked for an operator license out at Ryan Ranch. At that time, council granted that license, but since we didn't have any regulations in place, they tasked us to place a moratorium on there so that no more additional lab testing facilities would be permitted. And we are required to come back by the end of this year, or actually by February 2021, to lay out conditions that we think are necessary in order for lab testing facilities to operate out of Ryan Ranch. And that will happen very soon. We will meet with the Planning Commission in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And from there, the Planning Commission will elevate their decision to the City Council for consideration. And when it comes to the City Council, and I'm hopeful this will be in December, the City Council will rule over lab testing facilities and put conditions of use on them. But also, I plan on providing the Council then with a schedule for the rollout of the cannabis questions. And so from between now and December, we will work on fine-tuning what are the different steps that we have to go through. And I think we can also learn from our neighboring cities. You heard on September 16, the city of Pacific Grove permitted one dispensary. So Seaside has operating, I believe, 3 of those right now. Delray Oaks has 1, plus some manufacturing. uh, facilities. So we will take all that in, process that, and probably in December also present a work schedule for council's consideration. This is pretty large, as I said. It's very interesting for the community, and I really encourage you to participate. We will have many check-in points with the public, and please let everyone know what you feel and think. The worst case scenario is that we are implementing, and afterwards somebody felt that they were not heard or that they didn't have an opportunity to weigh in, and we want to avoid that. So with that, I touch on a brief topic, which is diversification of our economy. Cannabis can be diversification in a small extent, as dispensaries bring in different types of jobs than we have right now. And also with that, it will expand, hopefully, our tax base. On the other hand, our main economies in our region right now remain hospitality industry, which has suffering right now a temporary devastation, as you all know, through COVID-19. But that's a temporary devastation, and that's a temporary occurrence. And I compared this always with occurrences that you have also across the peninsula and Salinas Valley, when a special vegetable or some agricultural product goes through the headlines of being thrown out in masses because E. coli was detected or something else. We have that now for the first time in our hospitality industry, and you see already signs on the horizon of a slowly return on of some of those elements. But as I stated, hospitality is one of our main pillars here in our economy. The other one, often overlooked but very important, is are the federal agencies that we have here. The Department of the Army is operating the Defense Language Institute, and the Navy is operating the Naval Postgraduate School, as well as Fleet Numerical. And those students there, their staff there, have no reductions in personnel. There's no reduction in payroll. There were no layoffs or anything like that. So that has been a very stable contributor to our local economy, as well as to our schools here, because every kid that goes to a school here gets a special amount of money from the state for every kid that is attending our schools. With that, we are funding our schools and our teachers. That's another element. And of course, another very important element is the educational sector, with Monterey Peninsula College and Middlebury here in our area. And another important leg of our economy that becomes more and more important is the public healthcare sector. And the Ohana project that is just starting is just another big project that is being sponsored by Montage Health right now out at Ryan Ranch. But healthcare is slowly creeping up in numbers of employments and jobs they are providing here on the peninsula. And so that's good to see as well, that our economy is diversifying into that direction. Of course, we are all not getting younger, and of course, we are all the potential customers of those healthcare facilities out at Ryan Ranch. I want to talk now to you about some of the other COVID-19 related issues. Just two highlights I want to talk about. The COVID-19 numbers keep going down right now. That is good news. The county is slowly moving into the next level of opening. I'm not the one to tell you when this will happen. I really do not fully understand all the different metrics for that, and I don't think those metrics are really that widely shared for everyone to see and understand. But we are moving into the right directions from what I can read, like you, in the news outlets and the press releases from the county of Monterey. But we are, of course, hearing also from the national news side that COVID-19 may have a new wave coming at us in October, November, December. And so I'm very, very cautious about those numbers, and I urge you all to continue to be cautious. And with that, I want to talk about our playgrounds. You heard on the news that um, uh, that the state allows the reopening of playgrounds. And a playground is defined as a local playground within half a mile of any neighborhood. And we made the decision here in the city of Monterey to not open playgrounds yet. Our county is still in the category of widespread COVID-19, and we do not have the personnel to maintain playgrounds, monitor playgrounds as required, because in the guidelines also is that we should ensure that folks are 6 feet apart, that kids staying apart from each other, et cetera, et cetera, and more wipe downs of playground equipment, more regular wipe down. And we just cannot comply with that, living in a county that has widespread COVID-19 still as the highest rated tier in the state of California. So we are with other counties in that tier, of course, but it's still categorized as widespread. So playgrounds will remain closed in the city of Monterey. We feel it's the more prudent thing to do. And consider this as well. Dennis the Menace Park is a regional playground. Dennis the Menace Park is a regional playground, and every weekend we have 1,500 to 2,500 people inside that playground. And it's really not responsible if we open it up to have a lot of folks congregating then inside the playground. So with that, I want to switch gears and talk briefly about housing. I wanted to inform you that we are in the process of reviewing the plans for 2200 North Fremont Street. That is the former Eddie's site on North Fremont. Eddie's was this bunker that we had, this disco bunker or whatever you may call that. It was an eyesore for many, many years. We ordered the owners 2-3 years ago to demolish that site because it was an eyesore and it was not safe anymore. They demolished it. Since then, it became a staging area while we were doing street improvements to North Fremont. And now the site is empty again, but I want to tell you that the owner has submitted plans to the city of Monterey, and we are waiting now for resubmittal of those plans, because when we do plan checks, there are always little things that we like to be corrected and to come up with building codes, etc. And so that project is still progressing, and it will bring us 41 apartments. About 8 of them are affordable units, and those apartments that will be built on that site will be anything between a studio through a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. So it will have a wide spread of different types of housing accommodations. That project, as I stated, is progressing, and to the best of our knowledge, I really hope we will see groundbreaking there very soon. I also wanted to let you know the city offered up 4 different locations that we own, and we offered those locations up to potential developers for 100% affordable housing. And the RFP, request for proposals, will close tomorrow on Friday. And don't worry, we have received 0 proposals so far. But what usually always happens is developers, proposers always wait to the last minute, and we expect actually tomorrow to get quite a few numbers of proposals. I can tell you there were there was interest. We had a lot of questions from different parties, and we answered all those questions and extended the deadline for that. But tomorrow, October 2nd, we will get the RFP back, and hopefully we have a lot of proposals. Um, Last but not least, right now you might see that Monterey County OES just issued a red flag warning for fire danger in the, I believe, Santa Lucia Mountains and Los Padres Forest. With that, the fire situation is dire. We have, I believe, again around 15 firefighters out now. We were down to about six, and over the past 4 days, we had to send out two more engine companies, and of course, the glass fire in Napa Valley is dominating right now the fire response of the state of California. So, with that, please keep our firefighters in your thoughts. 15 firefighters are out right now, and we all want them home soon and safe, and we don't want any more of those fires. And so again, please do your part as well, and let us know also where you think fire danger is. And then I think our forestry team, our fire team, has been very responsive to requests from neighbors with respect to greenbelt areas. The old Capitol site is as clean as it ever was. That doesn't mean nothing can happen there. Anything can happen anywhere, but we're trying to work very hard to ensure that our fuel reductions in our green belts is continuously achieved. With that, folks, I spent 33 minutes with you. That's 3 minutes longer than I wanted to entertain you. I want to thank you so much for listening again. Last thought about COVID-19 that I wanted to share with you as a closer is the elected officials really have a tough job right now, because you can see that a lot of industry folks, particularly from the restaurant business, are suggesting the winter months are coming. Outdoor seating is not the solution. Please help us, elected officials, to open up our restaurants inside again. And with that, of course, the elected officials know that that means employment. With employment means people can pay the rent. That means also that revenues are coming in, and dollars that are spent in a restaurant multiply many times over throughout the supply chain of restaurants, through their employees who are receiving wages. So that's one aspect the elected officials have to weigh. And on the other hand, absolutely important is public health. And we need to understand how we are all getting through the COVID-19 crisis right now with minimal impact on our public health and on our hospitals. So I wanted to basically just plead the case for you to understand the challenges public officials are facing when they are asked to do one thing or the other, because we have on the other side, of course, many of us who are cautioning the public officials, the elected officials, in not to reopen too fast. So over the next couple of weeks, months, you will see this challenge for the elected officials to listen to the constituents and also doing what is right for our economy. With that, plead for understanding for our elected officials. I want to thank you all for listening to me. Please stay safe, stay healthy, stay engaged in the city of Monterey. Don't forget to vote, and also do not forget to fill out your census form. If you haven't done it, please do so. If you have done it, great. Send everyone an email today in your email box and say, please fill out your census, because it will end now by October 5th. I think the administration was successful again to reduce the time for the census submittal. And the sooner you get it done, the better it is for all of us. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thanks for watching today. Goodbye.